Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nivasesus Nivadi Paskajade Satarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Sam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakapatripascha Kripasandviyavatam Patitanam Pavanevya Vaishnavebhya Namo Namaha. So what time do we end? Okay, we'll end up going through this quite quickly then.
How long is your?
I can adjust it as I'm fairly adjustable. So what we're looking here is what we generally call material and spiritual balance. And some variety of that question or struggle or doubt is one of the main questions that I get as I've been around the world more than 20 times in the last 20 years. And of the thousands of people that I've been teaching, it's one of the top 5 things that comes up. And it comes up from all different points of view. But this is a question that, in fact, Arjuna had in the Bhagavad Gita, where he was, okay, how can I do my job of being a prince, a politician, and a warrior, and be a yogi? How can I be a spiritual politician? How can I be a spiritual warrior? How can I balance these different aspects of my life? How can I bring them into harmony? So we're going to look at this in 4 areas. First is, how can all the aspects of our life energize us spiritually? Wouldn't that be cool? If everything we did all day long would give us spiritual energy. Then the next question is, what about our struggles with illusion? Is there some hope for us in our struggles with illusion? And then the next one deals with particularly our spiritual practices, what we usually call our sadhana. How can we find high quality time with Krishna in a busy life? And the last one is what we discussed to some extent yesterday with Krishna meditations, although we're going to look at that not exactly the same. How can I always think of Krishna in my real life? So sometimes I teach this as 4 separate seminars of like 1 to 2 hours each. So I'm going to go, rather than just choosing one of these, I thought, let's go through all of them, but we'll go through all of them fairly quickly. So how can all the aspects of my life energize me spiritually? I mean, it may seem to us that some of our activities are spiritually draining, even if they're not like against bhakti. They're not like nasty or sinful, but they don't seem to be spiritually enlivening for us. And so what we're going to look at is we're going to look at misconceptions that cause this problem. What are our misunderstandings that cause this problem? And then we're going to look at 2 general philosophical solutions, and then we're going to look at some specific practical solutions, okay? So we're going to look at the problem from a philosophical point of view, the answer from 2 perspectives from a philosophical point of view, and then the answer from a practical point of view. Everybody clear? And by Krishna's arrangement, I actually just ran into this within the last few hours. Okay, so a misconception that spiritual life means being a renunciate. That if I take up spiritual life, I'll quit my job. You know, I won't work in the world. I'll just dedicate all my life to chanting and studying, maybe preaching, maybe living in an ashram. There's a very, very common misconception. And not seeing that our work can be service. This, of course, was Arjuna's big problem in the Bhagavad Gita, that he had work to do, and he said, my work is materialistic. My work is taking me away from spirituality. And Krishna is telling him, do Buddha yoga, do the yoga of intelligence, and at the same time, be a ruler, fight this battle. And Arjuna is saying, I don't see how I can do both. I don't see how I can be a country's ruler, and I don't see how I can fight against these evil people, and at the same time, engage in Buddha yoga. I have to leave everything and become a beggar. Right? I have to leave everything and become a renunciate. Another misconception is thinking that detachment from the world means hardening your heart, means not having emotions, not having feelings. That if I'm detached, it means I don't care about anything. Another misconception is thinking detachment means being irresponsible, like a child. That, well, if I don't care about anything, I'm detached, then I'll just let everything fall apart. Thinking that if I have spiritual detachment, then I'm going to neglect my own or other people's feelings, other people's physical needs, other people's psychological, emotional needs. I'm going to neglect my own emotional and social and physical needs. And that this is the way I'm going to be detached. And I run into these misconceptions all the time. So I was teaching this course on career dharma recently at New Vrindavan. I also taught it in London. I was teaching a training to certify coaches in career dharma, which is a very, very intense training course. So it's usually 3 or 4 days of the whole day, and it's a very mentally, emotionally focused, intense training. And I usually have to make some adjustment in my physical schedule. Like I generally don't eat in the evening, but when I'm teaching that course, I eat very, very little all day, so my brain will be completely sharp, and I eat in the evening. And I have to make all these adjustments to like my physical schedule, so that in my old age, that I can have that sharpness all day that I didn't have to make any adjustments to do when I was 20. Anyway, at the end of the training, one of the organizers was thanking me for doing the training and said, so Mother Urmila sacrificed her health. Yay! And I said, first of all, I didn't sacrifice my health. I said I was very, very careful with how I adjusted my eating and sleeping and my schedule so that I wouldn't sacrifice my health. And why are you glorifying me for sacrificing my health? Why are you saying, yay, she sacrificed her health? Why are you putting that up as something that should be glorified and emulated? So that's this misconception. That if I'm renounced, if I'm detached, so I don't know if I should tell you this. So many years ago, it was a long time ago, I was seeing a doctor about some ongoing thing with my health, and he said to me, and I was like this in Sari and Tilak, and he said, is there anyone in your tradition that you have as a model of someone who really took care of their health? And I thought, I said, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. And I was thinking how he would take a 1 to 1.5 hour brisk walk every day and get like a 2-hour massage in the middle of the day, plus another like 20-minute massage in the evening, just to make sure that his health was functional. So, but there's this misconception, well, if I'm detached from everything, I'm going to be irresponsible with my life, with others, with myself. Now, the problem is that if we try to neglect our basic physical, emotional, social, psychological needs, or those of our families, that it'll bite us. So I don't know, this was a picture I found to try to demonstrate it, that if we kind of dry everything up, we kind of try to dry up our life and force ourselves through, that the waves of our basic physical, emotional, social needs are going to come through and flood us anyway. Eventually, we're going to pay the price. Eventually, with our families or ourselves, those needs will reassert themselves. Okay, so what's the solution? And these misconceptions are very common. As I say, I just ran into this again today. It's extremely common. Spiritual life means I renounce the world, and renouncing the world means I'm hard-hearted, or I'm irresponsible, or I deny the basic psychological, physiological, emotional needs of myself and others. So one solution, first part of the solution, is that we see that Krishna is not only transcendent to the world, but that he's also immanent in the world. That the world is his body, which is something that we talk about in Krishna meditations and is talked about a lot in the Bhagavatam. That the world is the body of God. That it's not just that spirituality is over there and the material world is over here, but this is also Krishna's world and his body. One of my favorite quotes, this is from Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, Lord Brahma's prayers. The existence of Maya, or illusion, is only within the mind. The definition of illusion, as given by Krishna in the 4 key verses of the Bhagavatam, he says, anything that appears to be of value that is without relationship to me. If we think something's valuable and we don't see how it's related to Krishna, that is illusion. It's a particular way of looking at reality. Illusion is not a thing or an activity. It's a consciousness. It's an awareness that there is some kind of separation. That this table or my body or this microphone or the floor, somehow it doesn't have anything to do with Krishna. That's Maya. So the change of understanding is seeing that the world actually has a relationship with Krishna. Now, if the world has a relationship with Krishna, then Krishna has desires for this world. And therefore, he has a mission. He has goals for this world. So there's something to do in this world for him. Prabhupada writes in the purport to Gita 5.2, action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruit of action, so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Better to act for Krishna in the world than to try to renounce the world. So the first philosophical understanding is the world is the body of God. And therefore, there's always something divine to be done in the world. Second solution is who am I? So first solution is what is the world? The world is the body of God. Second solution is who am I? So we have so many identifiers in this world. All of us are somebody's son or daughter. Many of us are somebody's spouse, somebody's parent, somebody's sibling. And then we have our work identifiers, right? I'm a software engineer, I'm a banker, I'm a doctor, whatever it is, I'm a teacher. And then we have so many identifiers in terms of our psychology. I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal. So all of these kind of identifiers. So the second big solution is, who am I? First is, what is the world? The world is the divine body of the Lord. The next is, who am I? As long as I identify with all these things in the world, first of all, I'm not going to be very happy, because I'm always going to try to be perfectly something that I'm not. I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be angry. Like, let's say we're trying to be the perfect child of our parents, okay? I'm going to try to be a good son. I'm going to try to be a good daughter. Even if you really, 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 really try to be a good son or a good daughter, are your parents always going to think that you're a good son or a good daughter? If you have siblings, will they always think you're a good son or a good daughter? Will you always think you're a good son or a good daughter? Then we get frustrated. Especially when we're really trying. You know, I'm really, really trying to take care of my parents nicely and make my parents proud, and then they're grumpy about something anyway. And then I'm just like, what's wrong with you guys? I'm trying so hard to serve you, and you're not appreciative. Isn't it? Or we get upset with ourselves. Oh, why can't I be up to this standard? And with all of our relationships, it's like that. And then we're frustrated. But see, actually, we're not any of those things. I was just hearing Srila Prabhupada say this morning. He said, you know, we've had so many families and so many lives. We've reincarnated so many times. We don't have a permanent identity in any of these ways. So not only should we see the universe as the body of God, but we should see ourselves as a soul. We should see ourselves as Krishna's agent. I like to call this the secret agent principle. Right? So if you're a secret agent, if you're a spy, so you don't go to North Korea to immigration and say, hi, I'm a spy. You say, I'm an English teacher, or I'm a car salesman, or something like that. You have a cover story. So our identities in this world are a cover story. I'm this person's child, I'm this person's spouse, I have this job. That's all a cover story. Actually, I work for Krishna's company. I'm his employee. And what does Krishna's company produce? What's their product? Anybody know? Devotees, that's interesting. I like that. Love. Prema. Mahaprabhu, he tells Krishna, he says, I want to work for you and you give me this salary. Premadana, give me this salary of love. So it's a divine love company, love of God. So we work for the love of God company. We have that identity. And everyone we meet, instead of thinking this is my parents, this is my spouse, this is my boss, we think everyone I meet, either they're a supervisor in the love of God company, or they're a colleague, or they're a customer, or they're a potential customer. Maybe right now they shop in the Illusion Mall. And superficially, we have so many other relationships with them. But that's just our cover. Now then, ironically, we become a better son, better daughter, better husband, better wife, better parent, better bank teller, whatever it is we're doing, because we're not going to be so affected by what people think of us or what we think of ourselves in terms of our external, temporary, superficial identity. I'm trying to take care of my husband, not so my husband will be pleased, but so Krishna will be pleased. And maybe on Monday, my husband's happy with me, and Tuesday, he's not. But maybe I'm trying to please Krishna both times, so then I can be happy. I can be happy even if, people aren't always happy with me, because they're not always going to be happy with me, in case you guys didn't notice. Then I can be steady in what I'm doing, because I'm doing it for Krishna. So this is the second big philosophical solution. I am a soul in the love of God company. I am not any of these designations. So if we solve these two problems, we see the universe as the body of God and ourself as a spiritual being. So then what would we do specifically? Let's now get into some more specifics. So here we have, this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is the father of the Guru of Srila Prabhupada. And he himself had about 10 children. He was also a high court judge in the Indian government. He wrote about 100 books on Krishna Bhakti. And he wrote many, many songs. And one of them is, O Lord, nothing further remains that may be called mine, declaring that my wealth, family members, home, and wife are truly yours. I continue as a mere servant to dutifully protect them. For the purpose of your service, I will earn money and bear the expense of maintaining your household. So his renunciation didn't need to lead to neglect. It didn't lead to hard-heartedness. It didn't lead to irresponsibility. It didn't lead to repression. It led to him seeing, my house belongs to Krishna. My wife, my children belong to Krishna. Let me take care of them as my service to Krishna. Let me earn money as my service to Krishna to take care of his family and his house. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Anjalila, chapter 9, there's a very interesting story where one government official got in trouble with the government, and finally everything got sorted out. And once it got sorted out, this government official said, I'm just going to walk away from everything. Just, forget it. I won't work for the government anymore. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, no. He said, if you all accept the renounced order and you lose interest in money, who'll take charge of maintaining your family? Whether you're doing these so-called material activities or whether you're renounced, you're my eternal servants. So Srila Prabhupada's guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, writes some commentary on this verse. And he says, one should always remember that one is eternally a servant of Krishna. Whether one is engaged in so-called material activities involving money or is renounced, one should always think, I am an eternal servant of Krishna. Both being renounced and dealing with money are external affairs. One should always consider, how can I please and satisfy Krishna? Then even if one is involved in very great externally material affairs, one will not become attached. But as soon as one forgets that they're a servant to Krishna, then one becomes involved in material attachments. But if one's always conscious that Krishna is the supreme master and I am an eternal servant, then one is liberated in any condition, and entangling material activities will not affect him. So what's one way that we can work in the world as a servant of Krishna? Is we can work according to our nature. So this is a point that Krishna makes twice in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, in the 18th chapter. You'll notice this first 2 lines, Shreyan Swadharma Viguna Paradamat Sanustitat, and the same first 2 lines here. Krishna is saying, do the work that's your nature. Don't do work that's someone else's nature. Don't go down someone else's path. Don't pretend to be something that you're not. And Krishna says, if we do work that's not our nature, our work will act as a bhayavaha, or a vehicle of fear. So the different kinds of work are compared to different parts of the body. And Prabhupada sometimes says we're all a cell in the universal body of Krishna. So if I'm a lung cell and I go into the stomach, number one, I won't be happy. I'm not going to get my proper nutrition. I'm not going to be in the proper environment. Number 2, I'm going to be useless to the body. In fact, I'm going to be a disturbance to the body, right? Right? If a heart muscle migrated to the brain, right? It wouldn't be happy, and it wouldn't be able to serve the body. So it's very important to understand, what is my nature? What is my role? So we have our swadharma. Swa means one's own. Dharma means our intrinsic nature. Paradharma means others' nature. When I'm doing my own nature, I'm going to be nourished. I'm going to be happy. If I'm doing others' nature, I'm going to feel depleted. When I do my own nature, my mind is my friend. It's very easy to engage my mind in yoga. When I'm doing someone else's nature, I'm going to be battling my mind. When I'm working according to my own nature, I'm detached from the results. I'm just happy doing the work, success or failure, happiness or distress, victory or defeat. When I'm doing someone else's work, I'm not intrinsically enjoying the work, so I'm very affected by the externals. So if I'm going to be doing service for the Lord in the world, it's essential that I do it according to who I am. I can't do your work. I can't do your work. I have to do the work that's suitable for me. So I want to go into some nice specifics. This is a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to Jayapataka Swami in 1972. It's one of my favorites. And as a simple guideline for how to see the universe as the body of God and myself as a spirit soul. To have the mentality that there's always some service for me to do, and I am a servant. All right, so I'm the one who put the numbers here. Prabhupada didn't put the numbers here. And sometimes I've thought I could put 5 numbers instead of 4. But anyway, the secret of surrendering to Krishna is that such surrendered devotee sees, 1, again, Prabhupada didn't put the numbers, I put the numbers. 1, everything is part of Krishna's plan. Whatever is meant to be, I am doing. 2, let me do it with my full attention to every detail. 3, let me become absorbed in such service, never mind what it is, let all other considerations be forgotten, and I could break them in half. And 4, only my desire to do the best for Krishna's alone pleasure is my motive. English was Prabhupada's second language, or third perhaps. So we have a little funny English grammar here. All right, let's look at these one at a time. Everything is part of Krishna's plan. Whatever is meant to be, I am doing. So ultimately, this is true for everyone. But especially somebody who has said, even once from the heart, my dear Lord, I'm yours. I want to find the divine. I want to find my spiritual purpose. I want to connect spiritually. Once a person says that, then their life becomes guided by divinity, not just by karma. And so we are at every moment, we are exactly in the right place with exactly the right people. And in every moment, there's some service we can do. At every moment, every place, every time, there's a way that we can connect with Krishna. Prabhupada's saying everything. Whatever is meant to be, I am doing. This is everything. At every moment in our work, at every moment in our house, at every moment in our car, at every moment, there's some way that we can be of value, that we can have purpose to the divine plan. Now, this statement does not mean that whatever I'm doing at this moment, I have to do forever. It's not that because what I'm doing at this moment is part of Krishna's plan, that I have to do that forever. Perhaps my service in the moment is to walk out of the door. That might be my service in this moment. Maybe my service in this moment is planning a trip for a month from now. So maybe in this moment, I'm making a future plan. Or maybe in this moment, I'm saying, hey, I have to get out of this situation. That might be my service. But I have some service in this moment. So to always have this idea, in every moment I have some service. What tends to happen if we don't have this mood is that we're never present. You know, we're in some situation and we're thinking, when can I finish this so I can do something else? Or when can I do something better than this? Instead of what service do I have here and now? Let me do it with my full attention to every detail. To really pay attention. Again, whatever it is, we talk a lot about paying attention when we're chanting mantras, when we're in kirtan, when we're in japa, paying attention. But this is paying attention all the time to whatever we're doing. Something as simple as putting a plate in the dishwasher, or putting our car in the garage, or asking our kids to put their socks in the laundry. It doesn't matter what it is. To pay attention to that detail. I'm doing this for the Lord. I'm doing this for Krishna. I'm dealing with the divine energy of the Lord. Let me pay attention to the details of how I'm doing this. If the world is the body of God, which he says it is, then everything, everyone, every living entity, every object is part of his divine form. Let me always remember that I'm dealing with divinity. Then this again I could break into two halves. Let me become absorbed in such service, never mind what it is. Let all other considerations be forgotten. So this is what sociologists, psychologists call being in a state of flow, which is very similar in many ways to being in a state of samadhi, total absorption. That again, whatever I'm doing at the moment, and we'll talk about a little later in the presentation how to do this, but whatever I'm doing at the moment, to give it my full absorption. Again, no matter how seemingly trivial it is. Brushing my teeth. I mean, it could be something very trivial. Externally. Making the bed in the morning. Getting into my car. But to be absorbed in the detail of that. How can I do this? And forgetting about anything else being in that moment. Now we think about how this understanding has become very prevalent in the world, mostly Buddhist related. This concept of present moment awareness, mindfulness, right? And generally when people talk about this, they talk about this from a Buddhist point of view. But there's a personalistic point of view. I'm becoming absorbed in this present moment in a personal connection with personal divinity. Not just to become absorbed in the present moment on a sensory basis, but on a service basis. Because what really satisfies us is giving. Just being absorbed in the moment without a mood of giving, without a mood of service, without some sort of a mission is never going to fully satisfy us. And what is our mission? And Prabhupada's English is so sweet here. Only my desire to do the best for Krishna's alone pleasure is my motive. That I'm thinking, I just want to make sure that Krishna is smiling at me. Srila Prabhupada talks about how the residents of Vrindavan, the only thing they care about is Krishna smiling. How am I treating these objects? How am I treating this animal? How am I treating these people? How am I treating this job? How am I giving it attention to detail? How am I being absorbed so that Krishna will smile? This is actual freedom from materialistic life. So in the purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 12:192, Prabhupada says, for one who becomes Krishna conscious, the distinction between material and spiritual varieties does not exist. An advanced devotee sees everything as one Krishna. One who is in full Krishna consciousness does not distinguish between things material and spiritual. He takes everything to be related to Krishna and therefore spiritual. And of course, we have what Prabhupada calls the peace formula, Bhoktiram Yagatapasam Sarvalok Maheshram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatfamam Shanti Richati, that if we see like that everything, oh, thank you so very much for bringing that. Sorry we spaced that out, thank you. Can you just put that by the other, just put the whole thing by the other boxes. So sorry we spaced that out. If we see that Krishna is controlling everything, like Prabhupada said, everything is part of Krishna's plan, whatever is meant to be, I am doing that. That Krishna is the enjoyer, I'm doing everything for his pleasure, suridam, and that he's my friend. That Krishna is my friend, then we become peaceful. And again, one of my favorite quotes, this is from Krishna book, chapter 20. Prabhupada says, for the materialistic person, worldly affairs become too aggressive. Whereas to a person who's in Krishna consciousness, everything appears to be happily situated. Now I know sometimes when I say that quote to people, they'll say, Urmila, don't you have that backwards? They'll say, isn't it that the materialists think they're happy and the devotees see the world as very aggressive? And I'm like, then why do you want to be a devotee? In a materialistic consciousness, we're seeing there's so much conflict in the world. There's friends and enemies, and there's good and bad. But the devotee sees everything as part of Krishna's plan, whatever's meant to be, that I am doing. Let me do it with full attention to every detail. Let me become absorbed in such service. Never mind what it is. Let my only motive be for Krishna's pleasure. So if we have this mood that the world is the body of God, the universe is the body of God, which means there's always some service for me to do. And for me, my particular nature, my particular personality, there's room for everybody. There's always some service for me to do, and I am an employee in the love of God company. And I always have some work to do like that, whatever I'm doing superficially. If we work like that, then everything can be spiritually enlivening for us. Everything. Whatever it is we're doing, whatever you're doing in your home, whatever you're doing in your work, whatever you're doing in your car, whatever you're doing in the grocery store, everything becomes spiritually enlivening. All right, that's part one. And we're going to do part two. All right, so we defined Maya a little bit already, didn't we? So here's Maya Devi. Krishna says, Daivi esha gunamayi mama maya jarachaya. Very difficult to overcome. So again, what is Maya? Maya is, I see something separate from Krishna. As Krishna defines, whatever appears to be of value, if it has no relation to me, has no reality, know it as my illusory energy, that reflection, which appears to be in darkness. So illusion is, I don't see the world as the body of God, and I don't see myself as a spiritual being. I see myself as the body. I see the world as a place for me to exploit, for me to enjoy, separately from Krishna. I see things without relation to Krishna. I see the world as an aggressive, difficult, painful place of struggle for me to try to become happy, for me to try to control the world. And I see spirituality as something separate. Here's the world of struggle, and here's where I go, right? I sit on the bank of the Yamuna, or I sit in my temple room, and this is where I go to get away from the world. Now, there are certain activities that tend to put us in a state where we're in Maya. So there are certain ways of acting, certain ways of thinking, certain ways of feeling that tend to feed this mentality that I am this body and this world is for me to exploit and enjoy, and God is someplace else. Either he's absent or he's separate. So we have a question that why would someone who's interested in spirituality, which I assume is all of you or you wouldn't be here, why do we sometimes do those very activities or those kinds of thoughts that actually encourage us to forget Krishna and to forget who we are? So of course, Srila Prabhupada has talked about illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling as activities that have that effect, right? That if we're eating meat, fish, and eggs, if we're gambling, if we're taking intoxication, if we're having illicit sexual relationships, that those activities are going to have the strong tendency to make us forget that we're a spiritual being and that the world is the body of God. I mean, let's look at intoxication. Let's look at alcohol. So what is alcohol? It's fermented grains or fruit or potatoes. So there's nothing wrong with fermenting food. Makes good compost, good fertilizer. But it also produces toxins, right? It's actually all alcohol is a mild poison that gives us poisonous effects. Yes? So the fermenting food is not the problem. The problem is using it in a way that we will forget about Krishna. Does this make sense? There's nothing wrong with dead animals. Everyone dies. All animals also die. But the problem is that if we're killing animals for food or paying someone else to do that and eating that, then our bodies become, as George Bernard Shaw said, a graveyard. And we lose our ability to be compassionate. We lose our ability to see other living beings as spiritual beings. And gambling means trying to make money without giving any commensurate goods or services. I'm trying to make money quickly and easily without offering anything of value to society. So that brings out a general cheating mentality, which is incompatible with seeing everything as divine. And obviously there's nothing wrong with basic reproduction, but children should be raised in a loving atmosphere. They should be raised by people who want them and love them and take care of them. And everybody knows of all of the harm that illicit relationships cause to society. It causes a whole breakdown of the whole social system in society and entangles one again in thinking that I am this body. So those are very gross sinful activities, but then there are more subtle sinful activities, or just more subtle activities, and we're not going to list them. But I'm sure we can all think of things that we might do or say or think that are not good for us spiritually. Yes? Right? It may not be grossly sinful. I may not be going and chopping off animals' heads or something, but it's still something that it covers me, that has me forget that the world is divine and that I am divine. So why do we do those things? And of course, Arjuna asked this question in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Why do I do things that I know are wrong? So sometimes it may be pressure from other people at work. Right? As some countries in the world, like Ireland and Korea, this is a serious problem. That you're really expected to drink a lot of alcohol as part of your job. Maybe pressures from family. Or maybe pressures from family like this. Do this, do this, do this. No time for spiritual life. You have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this. Maybe it's pressure from friends or other students at school, right? I know a lot of you have kids who are going to go to college or who are in college, and you are worried about what's happening in college, and you should be worried about what's happening in college. My humble suggestion is if you can have your kids live at home or live with friends or live in like a Krishna house and not live in a dorm, that's a far better situation, because there's a lot of pressure in colleges to do really crazy, stupid things. Maybe pressure from friends. Maybe even other friends who are practicing Krishna consciousness, who talk to you about just gossip and criticism and things that pull you down from spirituality. And then our own self can be bad association. It can be my own mind, my own previous bad habits, my own ways of thinking. The problem can be coming from myself. Okay, what are we going to do about this? So we're going to suggest several solutions from the best in terms of spirituality. So we're going to start with the best thing. Now, all of these work. They all work. They will all work in different circumstances, for different things, for different people. Okay, the best solution is to have association with other saintly persons. When our friends, our associates are also people who are interested in spirituality, it makes it very easy for us to structure our lives in a way that's conducive for remembering Krishna and not conducive for forgetting him. So this is the absolute best solution. Of course, it's probably impossible for us only to have this kind of association. And the ultimate solution is to fully change our identity. When I fully identify as one of Krishna's eternal associates, then I'm not going to have any inclination to want to forget him or to do anything that will cause forgetfulness. So we want to get the real taste. Krishna says, param drisva nivartate. So here you have, Krishna talks about a banyan tree. The world is like a banyan tree that's reflected in water upside down. So here you have the different relationships with Krishna and how they're reflected in this world. If I want to give up what I'm falsely trying to enjoy in illusion here, I want to instead try to enjoy the reality. Now, my dear friends, this is a little subtle and a little difficult, but if you can get this, and it's a little hard on the ego, sorry about that, but if you can get this, it's life-changing. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the preface to the Nectar of Devotion that everything we do is motivated by a desire to enjoy rasa. Rasa is a very difficult word to translate. Srila Prabhupada wrote in the Nectar Devotion that he didn't know how to translate this word. So I'm not going to pretend that I know how to translate the word. But it's something like taste, pleasure. In Ayurveda, rasa is a very fine product of digestion. It's kind of the essence, the pleasurable, tasty essence of something, as a best I can do for a translation. And everything we do, every single thing we do all the time, is to try to enjoy some kind of pleasure, some kind of taste, some kind of experience. The Vedas say, Anandamaya Bhyasat, we are pleasure-seeking beings. I'm sure you've heard of heat-seeking missiles. So we're pleasure-seeking beings. Where is there pleasure for me? All right. According to rasa understanding, there's seven secondary categories of rasa and 5 main categories of rasa. So altogether, 12 main categories of rasa. So the first 5 have to do with general relationships, neutrality, where we're in awe of somebody. We're not doing anything for them, we're just in awe of them. You know, someone going to some concert of some big musical star and just, right? So that's neutrality. Then servant, where we want to help somebody. We want to assist. We get, wow, this is such an inspiring person. I'd like to do something for them. I want to make them happy. I want to serve them in some way. Then friendship, that's more feeling of equality, a buddy that we do fun things with. Then parental, where we feel protective, where we feel caring over somebody. Right? A child, a little animal, and then there's romantic attachment. So those are the 5 rasas of relationships, but then there's also 7 secondary rasas. So one of them is comedy or laughter. Yes. Anyone else? Any of the others? Anger. Anger is a rasa, my friends. Anger is a rasa. Do you know one of the main reasons that people watch sports is to experience anger? Have you ever watched anybody watch sports? Yes? Do they get angry? Oh yeah. It's one of the main reasons people go to political rallies. You see, they might say, I'm going to a political rally because I believe in this thing. They're not really going there for that reason. They're going to enjoy anger. Okay, what's another one? Bhaya, fear. That's why people do a lot of extreme sports to enjoy fear. Why people go to scary movies to enjoy fear. Something that's scary. Why they go on, roller coaster rides. Okay, what's another one? Virya. That's an interesting one. This is chivalry, which is also why people like to watch sporting events, for chivalry, sportsmanship. This has 4 subcategories in it. So there's one sportsman like fighting, and the other is giving in charity. Another one is being a very good person for the pleasure of the Lord. So this has some subcategories of it. Okay, what's another one? We had that one with the first 5, but good, yeah? Yes, horror, disgust. That's also why people like to go to political rallies. And if you don't think that that's a pleasure, try saying to someone, "Oh my God, that's disgusting." They're going to say, "What is it?" "Oh, let me see." Right? Believe me, a lot of political discussion is so people can experience the rasa of disgust. I can't believe anybody believes that. A lot of theological argument is so people can experience the rasa of disgust. A lot of gossip, right? "Oh, do you know this politician did this movie starred, oh really, they did that." Why are they enjoying disgust? Okay, what are the others? We said that, laughter, comedy. 2 more. Huh? Compassion, Dayavir is part of Vira. So under Vira there's the fighting, there's the charity, there's compassion, and there's Dharma. But there is another kind of compassion, Karuna Ras, which is sometimes called the rasa of compassion or the rasa of lamentation. So this is it sounds so weird, huh? Because when we're like 5 and 6, we learn opposites: hot, cold, high, low, happy, sad. So we learn the opposite of being happy is sad, but being sad is also a rasa. Otherwise, people wouldn't watch sad movies, right? Was it a good movie? Oh, it was great. When people complain a lot about stuff, "Oh, this thing happened to me, and this thing I can't." They're trying to enjoy this karuna ras. And there's one more. And this last one, Srila Rupa Goswami says, has to be present in any other kind of enjoyment. I mentioned it yesterday. No, although good guess. Adbhuta ras, wonder. Where Krishna says, "Of the splendid I am the splendor." Krishna is the wow. So there has to be some amount of wow in any other rasa for it to be tasty, for it to be pleasurable. Okay, you got all that? Whatever we're doing, we're trying to enjoy one of these 12 rasas or some combination of them. See, we don't tell ourselves that. We say, "I'm doing this thing, but I don't really want to do it." See, this is what Arjuna said. He said, "Why am I doing things that I don't want to do?" And Krishna's answer was, kama. It's your own. He said, kama can mean lust, but it also means desire. He's saying, well, you're doing them because you do want to do them. Isn't that weird? Like if you think, okay, I really need to lose some weight, so I don't want to eat any desserts, and you eat 3. Right? I have some important things to do, I have to do them, and instead you waste your time looking at something completely useless online. And you say, well, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to eat those 3 desserts. I didn't want to just scroll through my social media feeds. But Krishna's saying, you're doing it because you do want to do it. So we're getting some kind of rasa or some hope of rasa. We're at least getting some hope that I'm going to get some sort of pleasure out of this. Now, admitting this, my dear friends, is very difficult. It's difficult to say, the reason I'm doing this thing that I know is not good for me and that apparently I don't want to do and that I'm telling myself I don't want to do is because I actually want to do it because I'm getting something out of it that I think I'm going to enjoy. That's hard on the false ego. You only have to admit this to yourself. Krishna already knows it. You don't have to tell your friend. Just have to admit it to yourself. Now, what's the value of admitting that? Is then you can find something corresponding that's real rasa spiritually, you see? Then you can substitute the real rasa for the fake rasa. But you can't do that if you don't know what it is you're trying to enjoy. If we convince ourselves that I really don't want to be doing this and I don't like it, I'm not getting anything out of it, then it's very, very difficult to deal with the solution. So you find something spiritual that has the actual rasa, and you do that instead of the thing that's giving you the material reflection of rasa or the hope of rasa. You may not actually be getting any pleasure out of it, but you're hoping that I'm going to get something out of it. Okay, next technique is detachment. Detachment. So, again, one of my favorite verses, Bhagavad Gita 14:22, and this may surprise you. He who does not hate illumination, attachment, or delusion when they appear, nor long for them when they disappear. I'm going to say that again. He who does not hate illumination, attachment, or delusion when they are present, nor long for them when they disappear. Who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. So these modes, sattva, rajas, and tamas, they're hitting us at different times. And Krishna's saying, be neutral about them. Don't say, oh my God, I'm in so much tamas, it's terrible. I can't wait till it goes away. I can't wait till I'm illuminated by sattva. He's saying, whatever. This illumination, attachment, and delusion, they're going to come and go. Just watch them. Don't identify with them. Don't try to make them go away. Just watch them. You don't have to have them push us to do something. It's not that when I'm being attacked by Rajagun or Tamagun that I have to act on it, or even Sattvagun. I can just be detached. And in Bhagavad Gita 270, Krishna says, all these material desires, think of them as rivers going into the ocean. The ocean remains the same, no matter how many rivers are pouring into it. The ocean doesn't overflow. So yes, different thoughts, desires, they're going to come into the mind. And just, oh, that's a thought, it's coming, going, whatever. That's an emotion, it's coming, going. And I don't have anything to do with any of this. So there is a whole science as to how to do this. It's so nice, Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita 264, after talking about when you think about what you want to do in this world, you get attached to it, then you really want it, and then you end up becoming angry, and then you lose your intelligence, and you get bewildered. And after that, he says, you know, all you have to do is just mentally become free from attachment and aversion, physically regulate your senses, and I'll help you. I'll give you Bhagavat Prasad, which doesn't mean pakoras. It means that I'll give you grace. I'll give you help. Okay, next technique. Train an incompatible behavior. So if you find yourself spacing out at a certain time of day, watching things you don't really want to do that aren't good for your spiritual life, get yourself something else to do at that time where you can't space out. Give yourself something else to do that's incompatible with whatever behavior you're trying to get rid of. Right? If you find yourself yelling at your kids when you come home from work, then as soon as you come home from work, go in a room and cool off for a while doing something else where you're not around your kids. You can't be yelling at them. Get some devotional hobbies. Get something you can do that will give you some sort of rasa where you're not going to be able to do whatever it is that's pulling you away from Krishna. And one can study this about habit formation. You know, whatever bad habits we have are being triggered by something and giving us some sort of reward. And if we can find what that trigger and reward is, then we can give ourselves a spiritual reward that's not compatible with our bad behavior. Now, here's another solution. And this one is something that I find people are somewhat hesitant to do. And this is to reward the absence of the behavior, even if it's very small. Even if it's very small. We have a tendency that we want to wait until something is fully accomplished before we reward ourselves. But if we reward ourselves for the small wins, okay, I didn't yell at my kids for the last half hour. Woohoo! I didn't eat 3 blubjamins. Yay! Whatever it is. The baby steps. Baby steps. Don't wait until you're an Olympic runner before you're happy with yourself. But if you're able, 1 hour, 1 day, okay, I'm able to do something where I'm not forgetting Krishna. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. This is an interesting one. By the way, Krishna does all of these. This is another technique, is putting the bad behavior on cue. So I know a couple that was arguing all the time, and when they went to a marriage counselor, the marriage counselor suggested, why don't you have a scheduled arguing time? It actually worked very well. I think it was like from 6 to 7 in the evening, but the trick with doing that is you have to actually bring up the things then. So that 6 o'clock, okay, what do you want to argue about? Now 7 o'clock, okay, it's over. And what's, we do this with children all the time. So we do with children, they want to run around and scream. And we say, okay, now it's recess time, and we ring a bell and we say, now go outside and run around and scream. Right? To have a time when that's okay. So I had one devotee coming to me, she said that she was having a problem, that she was waking up at midnight every night and not being able to fall back to sleep until 2 in the morning. And so she's lying in bed and she gets on her phone and just watches garbage. And she says, what can I do about this? So we had a number of suggestions. And I said, why don't you give yourself some time, like maybe once a week for a half an hour when you can just watch garbage. And that way you won't do it every night in the middle of the night. You can tell your mind, okay, Friday from 5 to 6, I can just watch whatever garbage I want. What happens when you do that is it takes a lot of the zing out of it. It takes the sense of I'm being rebellious and doing something I'm not supposed to do. That's a kind of enjoyment, We all did that when we were children. We all did naughty things just to be naughty. I've seen little children do that. 1, 2-year-old children, they'll go over to the trash can and just... Right? I remember when I was 2 very clearly, we had a humidifier, and the humidifier was about this high and had a hole at the top where the mist came out of. And I would like to put things in that hole until the mist stopped coming out. And I'd put anything, tissues, toys, and I'd put something in. I remember this completely. I remember where it was in the house, everything. And I'd put things in, and then I'd look, put my hand over it, and I'd keep putting things until I had completely clogged it. And then my father, thinking that I was this innocent 2-year-old, he would just come and he'd take the humidifier apart and he'd take it out and he'd show me how it worked, and he would show me how I was clogging it up. He was so kind. My father was so kind to me all the time. He only got mad at me twice in my whole life. Very well-deserved times. Anyway, so he was nicely explaining all this to me, and don't do this again. Yes, Daddy. And then I would actually watch until he walked to the other end of the house, and I would put more things in there. So when you put bad behavior on cue, you take away this kind of, I'm being naughty because now I'm supposed to do this now. And eventually you give the cue less and less often until the behavior extinguishes. Okay, another technique is to take a vow. This is something suggested by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says you can take a vow first for 3 days, and then after that you evaluate it, and he has some other time. My own suggestion is 3 days, then a week, then 2 weeks, then a month, then at most 3 months. And after each time you evaluate it and say, how am I doing? Did I like this vow? Was I able to keep it? Whatever it is. I'm not going to eat this stuff. I'm not going to talk about this stuff. I'm not going to watch this stuff. I'm not going to go to these places. Whatever it is you're struggling with, to take some sort of vow. This can be very effective. And over some time, if you find that you like it, it can become your new normal and your new habit. And along with taking vows is related to keeping track of your progress. This can be extremely helpful. So this is related to the absence of the behavior or taking baby steps. You know, you can have buddies that you have accountability with. You can put some chart up on your wall. Something where you're actually keeping track of, how did I do with this? How did I do with this? How many days did I go without coffee? Or how many days, whatever it is that you're dealing with, to give yourself these rewards for these little wins. Okay, another technique is to destroy the situation. Now, one can destroy the situation just by creating friction. So for example, on your phone, you can set up things so that certain apps don't work at certain times. Right? You can do this on your computer too, or you can set timers on certain apps. You know, so okay, you can go check this thing and communicate with people, but then you're not going to space out on it. So you can just set up certain kinds of friction. You can leave your phone on the other side of the room when you're meditating, or you can turn it all the way off, or you can put it in a lockbox that has a timer on it. You know, you can make things more difficult for you to do. I remember years ago, my husband said, we should always have some prasadam when people come to visit. And I said, okay, well, what are we going to have? People don't come to visit all the time. It's got to keep. And he said, well, what about cookies? That can keep for a while. So fine, so I'd make the cookies, but then he ate all of them. So then he bought a lockbox and he didn't only gave me the key. You know, I wasn't into eating all of them. So, you know, so it can be simple friction, or it can be a major change. Now, this is often the thing that people go to first, and this technique has become very popular in the modern age. If something doesn't work for you, just walk away from it. Right? Anything that's not perfect, just destroy it. Now, destroying the situation in a major way does always fix the problem, but it often creates a new one. Right? If your house is dirty and you burn down your house, you don't have a dirty house anymore, but you don't have a house either. So this solution always works. It always works, but it can create new problems. But sometimes this is what to do. Sometimes you change your ashram. Sometimes you get married. Sometimes you become a renunciate. Sometimes maybe you change your location. Sometimes you change your job. So sometimes a major change may be necessary. All right? And the last one is just wait. We were having a nice discussion about how that often when we take up the process of bhakti, a lot of our bad habits, a lot of our difficulties, sometimes they just fall away and we're like, wow, how did that happen? I don't have that problem anymore. Many years ago, I was giving a class and someone asked a question, how do I deal with such and such problem? And as she was talking, I thought, that's such a minor problem. And then all of a sudden I realized that didn't used to be a minor problem for you. And the problem had been gone from my life for so long that I'd forgotten it was ever a problem. So some things just in the process of purification, they just fall away. So sometimes it's just a question, I've tried everything, it's not working, I'm just going to wait, and eventually Krishna will give me the grace. All right, so we looked at solutions, sadhu sangha, having good association, changing our identity, that I'm Krishna's servant, having a higher taste, having this spiritual rasa, practicing detachment of thoughts and feelings and the modes, having spiritual hobbies and recreation and incompatible behavior, forming new habits, rewarding our small steps, putting the problem on cue, taking vows, charting our progress, having accountability buddies, destroying the situation in small ways by locking up our phone every morning or moving to a new city, and being patient and having faith. All right, so we have finished part 2. You guys ready for part 3? All right. Okay, how can I find time for a high-quality relationship with Krishna in a distracted life filled with so much to do? This is, again, a big question I get. All these are like major questions. that I've gotten asked hundreds and hundreds of times. Admittedly, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, gave us a very demanding daily sadhana. I mean, and I've really thought about this, most spiritual practices, most spiritual organizations, most religions don't demand that much of their lay followers. Prabhupada's asking us 16 rounds, that's, 1.5, 2 hours a day. And then to do some kind of worship, at least another 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes a day. To read scriptures. You start adding all these things together, and you're looking at least 2 to 3 hours every day, correct? Right? The Muslims praying 5 times a day, it's a total of about an hour. Catholics going to Mass, again, you're looking half hour to an hour. Orthodox Jews going to Minyan, praying 3 times a day, again, you're looking at about an hour a day. And Prabhupada's asking us for 2 to 3 hours a day. It's a lot. And that's the minimum. That's like if you just did the basic minimum, it's a lot. And we want to do that in quality. He just got such a nice voice text from one devotee that I've been working with on this. And he said, I'm finally sitting and doing my chanting with high quality, not just running to chant a little bit here and there as I'm running around during the day. He said, it just made such a qualitative difference in my life. This, by the way, this part 3 is probably the heaviest part of the 4 parts. I always like to warn people, if you don't want anything heavy and soul-searching, you probably should go get a snack or something. All right, so we all know that the early morning is the best time for spiritual practices. If you've studied about the modes of nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas, I did study Ayurveda for about a year, and we learned that very early in the morning, there's this short period of time where they're all in equilibrium. Then after that, sattva becomes prominent. So that's the easiest time to do meditation and prayer and spiritual study. Analogously, you can think that it's easiest to drive on the road at 2 in the morning, right? And you try to drive on the road at 8:30 in the morning, it's going to be more difficult. So one can do spiritual practices at any time. However, early in the morning is easier. We're not being pressured by rajas and tamas. But doing spiritual practices in the morning is not always easy. First of all, we may stay up too late at night. Right? We may have a job that starts very early in the morning. I mean, I had a year, I was working in a public school, I had to be there at 7:20 in the morning. And before I went, I had to make my breakfast and lunch. Right? And I know a lot of people, especially perhaps women, early in the morning, they're cooking breakfast and lunch for their husband and their kids. So I've been in a lot of homes where the woman is going at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in the kitchen. And she doesn't have any time to sit down and do her spiritual practices, until everybody's gone, and then she has to go to work. Very demanding jobs with very long hours. I also remember when I was working in a public school, generally, I had to be there at 7:20 and I could be back by 4:30, but sometimes we had evening meetings and sometimes I had 14-hour days. Right? Or the jobs may be very demanding. They may be very demanding physically, or they may be very demanding mentally. And so you're just exhausted. You don't have much time in the morning, then you're just exhausted at night. Now you come home and you're just you're finished. I have more japa to chant. Should I chant my evening Gayatri now? Right? And then life can be very demanding. Right? Your basement floods, your sink's full of dishes, your kids need to be brought here and there and the other place and this thing and that thing. Right? And sometimes you just feel like you just have this to-do list of just everything. And then we do things that, we may waste time on mundane entertainment. This one I like too. And so our life may just feel like this. Like, I want to love Krishna, like, how am I going to spend time to sit down and be with Krishna? All right, you ready for the heavy stuff? You sure now? All right. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada talks about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and we can think about, how much of my energy am I putting into this stuff? Okay, we've got to do it. We have to take care of our physical, psychological, social needs, but how much? Is it taking up practically all of our time and energy? Are we rushing through our spirituality? And Prabhupada liked to quote where Jesus said, can we gain the world but lose our soul? Okay, I'm going to really challenge you guys because most of you are Indians born in India, right? What did you come to America for? You all know what you came to America for. Be careful that you don't gain the world and lose your soul. Yes? Yes. Look, I like living in America too. It's nice. It's nice to have electricity that works. That's nice. I'm not going to deny that. Clean parks, clean roads, where people stay in their lane usually. I was just in India a few weeks ago. Yes. But don't lose your soul. Now, you might think that this happens just to married people with families, and, when I can finally become a vanaprastha and give it all up, if I could live in an ashram, it would be so simple. That's not the way it works. Even a lot of devotees who live in temple ashrams also have very hectic, demanding schedules. A lot of them, they're on the altar early in the morning, they're in the kitchen early in the morning, they don't get time to chant their japa until 10 or 11, and then there's this thing to do, and that thing to do, and the other thing to do, and the other thing to do, and the other thing to do, and they can have just as demanding, hectic schedules as people who have families and houses. Just by the way. Okay. So, I'd like you all to, if you have paper or on your phones, I'd like you to imagine if you were to die today, what would a friend write in your obituary? Now remember, an obituary, now don't take a picture of this. This is nothing valuable here. There's nothing valuable in this picture. It's just a sample of an obituary. So I'd like you to imagine that a friend is writing your obituary. So this is your whole life in 1 or 2 paragraphs, folks. Your whole life, a summary of your whole life, 1 or 2 paragraphs. So I want you to pretend that you're your friend, you've just died, and you're your friend, and you're going to summarize your life, 1 or 2 paragraphs, okay? Can everyone take a few minutes and do that, please? On your phone or on a piece of paper. Imagine you have died today, your friend is writing your obituary. Is this unclear? Is this unclear? Unclear? You don't understand? This is an obituary. An obituary is a description, that's why I have it up there, not so you can take a picture of it. An obituary is a description, okay, here's this guy who died, and this is a little description of his life, written by probably one of his family members. Okay? This is a real obituary. How would one of your friends write your obituary if you died today? Is that clear now? Okay. Can you please write that? Do you have a phone? Do you have a phone? No? No phone? Paper? For people who have no phones, can someone share paper with them? You can try just doing it in your head if you want, but it's better if you write it down. How would someone else summarize your life if you died today? Oh, good. Thank you. Wow, look at that. There's always at least somebody like that in every crowd. Great. The organized together people who have everything, the kalpavriksha trees. Okay. Now I want you to do this again, but now it's Krishna writing it. So if you died today, what would Krishna write as your obituary? What would he write to summarize your life? You're not going to show this to anybody. It's okay. It's just for you. How would Krishna write your obituary if you died today? So as I'm sure you're all familiar with hospice care, when people are just given comfort care, when there's no more treatment. So a nurse who worked in hospice or palliative or comfort care, she recorded the most common regrets of people who were dying. And she wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of People in Their Last Days. One of them was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life other people expected of me. That this was the most common. I wish I'd lived a life that was true to myself and not trying to just please other people. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. She said every single patient who had a job or career said this. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd spent more time with family, with hobbies, with other pursuits, and not just working. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. And I wish I had let myself be happier. So if today we had a doctor's appointment and we found out, okay, you've got 2 weeks to live, would we have some regret? You want to just think or maybe write down for a minute what that might be? Okay, let's look at some solutions. I actually saw someone do this on a stage with real stuff. It was really dramatic. Do the most important things first. What if I don't get everything done? Nobody's gonna care. the truth, actually. You know, in Bhakti Godhead magazine, if you're a really big, famous person in the Hare Krishna movement, you're going to get 2,500 words describing your life. If you're of minor importance, you'll get 2 paragraphs for your whole life. Nobody even notices all the gazillion things that we think are important. You know, years ago when I used to have a physical in-basket, you know, with physical papers, there would always be some stuff that I just never got to, and then it expired. And I'd clean out my in-basket, and there were always some things I just threw away that never got done, and, you know, life kind of went on. I thought this was a really nice quote. I don't usually put up slides that I read, but I'm going to do it in this case. It can't be the case that you must do more than you can do. That notion doesn't make any sense. If you truly don't have time for everything you want to do or feel you ought to do, or that others are badgering you to do, well, then you don't have time. No matter how grave the consequences of failing to do it at all might prove to be. So technically, it's irrational to feel troubled by an overwhelming to-do list. You'll do what you can, you won't do what you can't, and the tyrannical inner voice insisting that you must do everything is simply mistaken. We rarely stop to consider things so rationally, though, because that would mean confronting the painful truth of our limitations. We would be forced to acknowledge that there are hard choices to be made, which balls to let drop, which people to disappoint, which cherished ambitions to abandon, which roles to fail at. Maybe you can't keep your current job while also seeing enough for your children. Maybe making sufficient time in the week for your creative calling means you'll never have an especially tidy home or get quite as much exercise as you should, and so on. Instead, in an attempt to avoid these unpleasant truths, we deploy the strategy that dominates most conventional advice on how to deal with busyness. We tell ourselves we'll just have to find a way to do more, to try to address our busyness, you could say, by making ourselves busier still. We have to prioritize. We can't possibly do everything. And if we really want to, we just have to take another life so we can work on all those things. And then, of course, we'll get more things to do in that life. Prabhupada said, don't work more than 8 hours a day. Whatever we can earn in an honest day's work. Be satisfied with that. Then this is something that I don't have time to go into in depth, but it is more a question of managing energy instead of time. We often think it's a time problem. It's not, it's an energy problem. This is something that I learned in a professional seminar way back in the early 80s that just transformed my life. And it's pretty simple, although people always say, well, how exactly do you do that? So we all have a certain amount of energy every day. And if you can allot, okay, I've got this much energy for the day, I'm going to allot this much energy for this, and this much energy for this, and this much energy for this. You can think of it like budgeting money. Like, let's say you had your amount of money that you could spend every month in cash, and you can make an envelope. This we can spend on clothes, this we can spend on food, this we can spend on this. And then when you were buying clothes, you knew you could spend everything in that envelope, in the clothes envelope, because you had cash in the other envelopes for the other things. Is that clear? So you remember how Prabhupada said we should be fully absorbed in what we're doing and not think of anything else? You can do that if you're fully giving to that thing the energy you've allocated to that thing. So if I say, okay, I'm going to allocate 20% of my energy to cooking, I can give 100% of that 20%. And I know that I'm still going to have enough left over for other things. Now, I've noticed, for example, if I chant all my 16 rounds in the morning, I'm more tired at night. And I realized if I still have some japa in the evening, what I'm doing is I'm reserving some energy for that. I'm saying, okay, I have to reserve energy for that. So managing energy is the secret as to how you can be fully absorbed in what you're doing at the moment. Now, a book that I highly, highly recommend across the board to everybody is this book about how to manage energy. If there's any book at all you read, outside of Shastra. This, I feel, really explains Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita, one who's temperate in eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all pains by practice of the yoga system. It's an excellent, excellent book about how to manage energy. In that book, they talk about how we have physical capacity, emotional capacity, mental capacity, and spiritual capacity. We have these 4 different kinds of energies. And if we learn how to manage them properly, we'll be able to increase each of them, becoming physically energized, emotionally connected, mentally focused, and spiritually aligned with a higher purpose. And I just really like the way they talk about how to align ourselves with the natural movements of biology. They talk about having this ebb and flow in our different energies. Not trying to just push ourselves without recovery, and not trying just to be lazy, not either underusing or overusing any of our energies. So again, I'm not going to get into this right now in depth. One technique that Srila Prabhupada said he used as a householder was he said he would chant 4 rounds before each of 3 meals and another 4 rounds before going to bed. So he chanted 4 rounds before breakfast, 4 rounds before lunch, 4 rounds before dinner, and 4 rounds before bed. So I found one problem is devotees think they're going to copy-paste a temple monastic sadhana into a household situation. And then when it doesn't work, they get discouraged and they give up on sadhana altogether. So you want to adjust for your specific reality, which may mean also being creative. Doing what's flexible for you, what works for you. I know a lot of people who the way they read Shastra is by listening to audiobooks instead of sitting down with a book. Right? How am I going to structure my sadhana so it's going to make sense with my personality and my life? Not just copy-pasting from somebody else's life. And this may change during our own life. Maybe the way that I have high quality time with Krishna when I'm 20 is different from the way I have high quality time with Krishna when I'm 50. My own mentality has changed, my life situation has changed. One of the most dangerous things that we have happening in our Hare Krishna movement is someone coming and telling everybody exactly how they have to have high quality sadhana time. Please, when people tell you that, just smile and nod your head and actually says that in the 7th canto. You say yes, yes, and then you do your own business. I've had people come and say, you should chant all your 16 rounds all at once without stopping and without moving. I'm like, you don't have any 1-year-olds in your house. They would get injured or die or something. I cannot move. I have poop coming out of their diaper, but I cannot move until I have finished my... It's like, sorry, that's just not reality, folks. So, people will come up with these things, well, everybody has to do this. And I have to do so much repair of this kind of thing as I travel. Somebody said I have to do this like this, I have to do it like this, I can't do it like that, I have to do it like that. Or I remember this one woman coming to me and she's saying, I don't read Prabhupada's books. I said, why not? And she said, well, I don't like the Bhagavad Gita. I'm like, well, so? She said, well, I was told that I first have to read the whole Bhagavad Gita, and then I have to read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, and then I have to read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then She said, but I don't like the Bhagavad Gita, so I never get anywhere. And I said, well, is there any of Prabhupada's books that you like? She said, oh, I love the Nectar Devotion. And I said, well, just read that. She said, but I thought I'm not allowed. I'm like, I used to go to the airports and give Nectar Devotion to just people out on the street. I didn't say, have you read the whole Bhagavad Gita and the whole Srimad Bhagavatam? So, do what actually works for you in your life. And this is going to sound funny, but do what you're actually going to do. Like, make a plan to do something that you're actually going to do. Don't make plans that sound very wonderful and exalted that you're never going to do. Prabhupada writes about this in the Nectar Devotion. Do something you can maintain. And we were reading this today in the Ladies' Sangha. According to the regulative principles, there are 9 departmental activities as described above, One should specifically engage himself in the type of devotional service for which he has a natural aptitude. For example, one person may have a particular interest in hearing, another may have a particular interest in chanting, another may have a particular interest in serving in the temple. So these are any of the other 6 different types of devotional service: remembering, serving, praying, engaging in some particular service, being in a friendly relationship, or offering everything in one's possession, should be executed in full earnestness. In this way, everyone should act according to his particular taste. If you want to have a regular, high-quality spiritual practice, include in it something that you really enjoy doing for Krishna. It doesn't matter what it is. Do you like making jewelry for the deities for Krishna? Do some of that every day. Do you like gardening for Krishna? Do some of that every day. Do you like writing poetry for Krishna? Do some of that every day. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. You can actually be you. There's a funny sign in the room where I'm staying. It says, be yourself unless you can be a mermaid, in which case you should be a mermaid. But no, really, be yourself. Like, you're allowed to be yourself. It's okay. Not only allowed, Prabhupada's saying 3 times here. What is he saying? Should, he says 3 times. Well, we have a taste for it, and that's different for different people. I recently met a devotee that's been chanting 108 rounds of japa every day for years. I know other people who spend hours reading the Bhagavatam and taking intensive notes, but they only chant 16 rounds. I once met this lady in London. We were doing a program at her home. And she said, can you please help me with something? And I said, what's the matter? And she said, well, the devotees are telling me that I need to spend more time reading the Shastra, especially the Bhagavatam. And I said, well, what's the problem? And she said, well, I just don't have time. And I said, well, why? She had a husband, a 12-year-old child, and she had a nice altar. And she said, well, I take care of the home and my husband and my son and my deities. And then I chant. I said, well, how much you chant? She said, 150 rounds a day. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. So I said, well, why are you chanting 150 rounds a day? She said, because it's just wonderful. I just feel so connected with Krishna and so peaceful and so happy. I said, I think you're just fine. She said, but they keep telling me that I should read the Bhagavatam. I said, I think you're fine. But they're telling me, she was really had anxiety about this. And I said, well, is there any time of the day you're not chanting japa? She said, well, like when I'm getting ready in the morning, when I'm taking a shower, getting dressed. And I said, could you maybe listen to an audiobook? And then she stopped me. She said, I know what I could do. I could recite Queen Kunti's prayers when I'm taking a shower. I really like those. That would be my Bhagavatam. I said, that's just fine. And then you have other people they're really absorbed in something else. Other people, they want to, be absorbed in taking care of the deities. Other people, they want to be absorbed in making plans. How are we going to distribute Prabhupada's books, or some other part of the mission, or something else for Krishna? Something where you have a taste. And if your regular sadhana is going to include something where you have a taste, you're going to be more likely to do all of it. This is from Srila Sanatana Goswami. This is from Priya Bhagavatamrita 2.3.152. Whatever limb of bhakti gives the devotee satisfaction and complete joy, that is the method saintly authorities deem most excellent and effective for him. So, do what brings you joy and connection to Krishna. And then in your other regular sadhana, maybe the parts that aren't as tasty for you, try to find some connection there. Whatever you're doing regularly, try to do it with some connection, with some emotion. Not ritualistically. Okay, so I'd like us to end this section. I don't know if I'm going to get to section 4 because it's already 7 o'clock. So I'd like to end this section, all of you to take a minute, maximum 2, and to write down something that you can do starting tomorrow to improve the quality or quantity of your spiritual practice. This may mean adding something, it may mean subtracting something, it may mean some change in your life, Please have this something that you will actually do. Don't write down something that might impress somebody else, but that you're not going to actually do. Don't say, I'm going to start sleeping only 2 hours a night and chant 150 rounds a day, if that's not something you're actually going to do. It can be a very, very, very small thing. Small things can have big results. One thing that I started some years ago that had a really big result is meditating on the meaning of the pranam prayers when I'm offering obeisances. Added maybe 2 or 3 minutes of time to my day, but it added a big quality. And then Srila Raghunath Das Goswami talks about 5 things we should do like we're drinking nectar. One of them is offering obeisances. So when I'm meditating on the meaning of Prabhupada's pranam mantra, I'm also pretending that I'm drinking nectar drink. So that does, it's a simple thing. Not a big time effort, not a big emotional effort, but made a big difference in my life. For some people I've said, why don't you read 1 screen on your phone of scripture every day before lunch? You know, sit down at lunch, have Bhagavad Gita on your phone. Everybody can have Bhagavad Gita on your phone, right? You all know how to do that. And you read 1 screen every day. What's that going to be? 2-3 minutes. Little drops of water wear away stone. Pretty soon you will have read the whole Bhagavad Gita. So it can be a little thing like that. It doesn't have to be major, 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 major. Okay? Take 1-2 minutes, write down something that you will actually start to do tomorrow. And if and only if you feel comfortable sharing this, if it's too personal, you don't want to share it, that's fine. If it's not that personal, you're willing to share it, please share it with somebody sitting next to you. If it's too personal or whatever, you don't need to share. But if it's not that personal and you can share it with someone next to you, sharing with someone makes it more likely that you will do it. Again, unless it's something very, very personal or private. So after you note it down, if you're willing, please share with the person next to you. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We've done 3 of the 4 sections. Should I just end here? Okay. So what we would have talked about in the last section is a lot of what I talked about yesterday. Does anyone have any questions, comments, suggestions, subtractions, additions?
How much time is the last one?
I can probably do it in 10 minutes. Up to you. You want me to finish? Okay. Always thinking about Krishna. Okay, what I'll do is I'll skip some of the introspective stuff. Okay. All right, how can we see Krishna in everything that we do? So, our last session we were talking about our sadhana, our spiritual practice. This is going beyond our spiritual practice. So Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita 18:9, he said, a person working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. This is the secret agent principle. Again, thinking I'm doing this for Krishna. Prabhupada says sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books, sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. This is in Bhagavad Gita 12:2. Sometimes he washes the dishes or the temple. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Full samadhi? I'm going to the market to purchase things in samadhi. I'm cooking in the kitchen in samadhi. What is samadhi? You write, in the Bhagavatam how Shamakya Rishi's in samadhi and Maharaj Pariksit comes and he doesn't hear Maharaj Pariksit because he's in samadhi, or Lord Shiva's in samadhi, he doesn't notice his father-in-law because he's in samadhi. Indradyumna doesn't notice that sage coming because he's in samadhi, gets cursed to become an elephant. How am I going to drive a car in samadhi? Sounds kind of dangerous. Or cooking, So the different kinds of yoga have different understandings of samadhi, and these are mostly based on detachment. The different kinds of yoga, especially in Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Dhyan Yoga, the idea is that you engage in pratyahara, you withdraw the senses from their object, you just meditate within. This is very related to what we talked about in the first section about misconceptions, thinking spiritual life means I don't do anything in the world, remember that? Bhakti Samadhi is different. Bhakti Samadhi is a natural samadhi that comes from natural absorption. When Krishna was in the coils of Kaliya, it says that the residents of Vrindavan, Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, that they had dedicated their everything, their life, their property, their affection, their mind, and their activities to Krishna. We all naturally become absorbed in anything we've invested in. Correct? Like some of you may be sitting here physically, but you may not actually be here. You might be thinking about something good that's coming up. Your kid's getting married, or you're going to take a vacation, or something bad that's coming up. Maybe you're afraid you're going to lose your job, or you're wondering, what the results of a medical test are. And so our mind goes to what we're attached to. So the main way to always think of Krishna is first and foremost to develop an emotional attachment for him. Without an emotional attachment to Krishna, we'll end up thinking about the things to which we have emotional attachments. There's just no way to get around that. We're not going to be able to think of Krishna merely intellectually. I know we talked about this yesterday, thinking of Krishna in the way he talks about in the Shastra. The heat and fire, the light of the sun, the light of the moon, the fragrance of the earth, the purifying wind, our ability, flower-bearing spring, as a Supreme Father, as a syllable Om, as all the sounds and ether, as righteous romance, as the seed. Does anyone remember how many times Krishna said he was the seed? 3. How many times did he say he was Om? 3. How many times did he say he was the light of the sun? 3. That he's death and immortality. He's the healing herb. He's the yagyas. He's the most dear friend. He's the chanting of the holy names. He's time. He's the ocean. He's the lion. All these different ways that Krishna says we can find him in the world. And those of you who want to go deeply into this, we have some copies of our Krishna meditation book here still. Of course, we can always chant the holy name. We can chant out loud in our mind. We can meditate on our favorite form of the Lord. Prabhupada will say this all the time, that we worship the deity so we can remember the form of the deity. We can remember Krishna's qualities. So also in our Krishna meditation book, the last fourth of it is about how we can remember Krishna's qualities in the world, like Krishna is ever youthful. When we see that someone who's very youthful, we can remember that. Krishna knows all the languages. How many of you know 2 languages? How many of you know 2 languages? 3. How many of you know 3 languages? How many of you know 4? How many of you know 5? And I bet you those of you who know 2, 3, 4, 5 languages, you can just switch, right? You talk English, then Hindi, then Gujarati, or Telugu, and you just... And whenever you hear anybody doing that, which I've heard at least 50 times since I've been here, I came yesterday afternoon, and at least 50 times I've heard people switch. Then I always remember Krishna. Krishna's doing that. He doesn't even have to switch. He can understand, all the thousands and thousands of languages. So this reminds us of Krishna's qualities. So many things in the world can remind us of Krishna's qualities. Srila Rupa Goswami gives 64 qualities of Krishna, and so many things in the world can remind us of these qualities of Krishna. And we can remember a pastime. So Prabhupada says if we just meditate on one pastime, we can become perfect. So do all of you have a favorite pastime? I have some favorite pastimes. I really liked the Viraha pastime. I was so happy in that Nrsimha movie that it showed the Viraha. That was my favorite part. Bhumi Devi and Viraha coming out of Brahma's nose and Viraha finding her by smell. That was just so totally cool. I always wanted to see that. Like, whoo, I got to see that. I'd like to see the battle between Arjuna and Karna. I don't think I want to be like in the battle, but I think I'd like to see it. It'd be really nice to see that. Or Lord Chaitanya being in 5 Sankirtan parties simultaneously. That would be really nice to see. Or I'd like to see Krishna milking the cows. So there's a nice description that Krishna has this golden water pot between his knees when he's kneeling down, and the cows are licking him as he's milking. And sometimes some of the drops of milk land on his clothes. And you know when we get liquid on our clothes, the clothes become like semi-transparent. So little drops of water, and his yellow devotee becomes a little transparent. You can see his form. Okay, so I'd like each of you to tell somebody next to you. We'll just take a minute and a half for this. Tell someone next to you what 2 pastimes of the Lord you would like to see. Please tell somebody next to you 2 pastimes that you would like to see. Okay, so we have a list of things. How Krishna manifests in the material energy, the taste of water, the light of the sun, our ability, the resting place, the seed. Any others? Anybody have a favorite from all the different ways we talked about remembering Krishna in the world? Yeah? Light of the sun. Anybody else have a favorite from that? Huh? Fragrance. Okay, anyone else? Water. Anybody else? Krishna's smile? The smile of a baby. Well, it's in the Bhagavatam it says that Krishna's smile is his illusory energy, and also that he shows his affection in his teeth. Anything else anybody would like to meditate on from Krishna in this world? Okay, any one of Krishna's names, Hare Krishna mantra, or Govinda, or Yasodhanandana. Any one of Krishna's forms, you can take your favorite form and meditate on it. Any one of Krishna's qualities, and any one of Krishna's pastimes. Okay, so do you want to have questions, or should we just end? Sure, it's fine with me. I don't know how restless other people are. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. So Mataji, I have one question. Is like you mentioned, like we have 9 processes of devotional service, and we can pick any of that. So I just wanted to clarify, like whatever we vow in front of Gurudev, that we have to do anyway, and then we can, after that, we can pick any of the service and
Correct.
do, right? Yeah, that is what I just wanted you
Correct.
to clarify. Yeah.
But the things that you vow, do them with taste. Don't do them mechanically.
Okay. So there are so many.
Prabhupada actually only gave us one vow of sadhana, and that's 16 months. He never made us vow for any other sadhana. Never.
So we have to find our own interest and work accordingly, right?
Prabhupada says should 3 times.
Okay. Okay, got it.
You can talk to him about it.
Okay, thank you.
And that's coming from Srila Rupa Goswami, and I quoted Srila Sanatana Goswami. Yes? Is that good enough? Rupa, Sanatana, Srila Prabhupada? Is that good enough? Do I need any more? Oh, you happy? Okay. Well, pay attention. Pay attention to yourself. You know, see as you do different services, what service makes you feel like, wow, I really feel connected with Krishna. And it's not going to be the same for, you know, someone else is going to have their connection in a different place than you. We're all individuals. That you're going to have to try different things and see, okay, where do I really feel Krishna's presence? Sure. Sounds great. And there may be some particular type of service for devotees where you really feel connected with Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for such a wonderful session. My question is, in devotional service, primarily there are 2 kinds of service that comes to my mind. One is direct service to the Lord, either in the form of the deities or paintings or some. The other is the indirect service.
I'm going to stop you right there. Prabhupada said there's no indirect service. Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Do you want to try again?
No. Thank you. That was my answer. That was my answer. Service to the devotees, service to the center is also service to Krishna.
It depends on you. I don't know if I should say this is so like earth-shattering. You know how Prabhupada says like, and I was just hearing this, I think maybe yesterday morning, where Prabhupada was talking about people who are just reciting the Bhagavatam to make money. They don't have any heart for Krishna. Prabhupada would call them professional reciters. And he said, by hearing from them, you can go to hell. So, it's your consciousness. It's not just, are you reading the Bhagavatam? Are you chanting the holy name? Are you serving the deity? It's your consciousness. When Prabhupada was running his pharmaceutical business, do you think that was direct service to Krishna? Interesting thought, isn't it? When Bhaktivinoda was on the bench hearing cases, was that direct service to Krishna? When, who is it? Mukunda was treating people's diseases, was that direct service to Krishna? And Kolovich Sridhar was making pots out of banana leaves. Was that direct service to Krishna? That depends. If you have the consciousness that I'm doing this for Krishna. That I'm doing this to please Krishna. How can I please Krishna by my activity? How can Krishna smile? How can I make Krishna smile? Everything is according to, anybody remember this from way back in the first part of the class? Everything is according to Krishna's plan. Whatever, you all remember this? Oh, good. Whatever is meant to be, I am doing that. Everything. Let me do it with full attention to every detail. Let me become absorbed in such service, never mind what it is, and let my mind not be distracted by anything else, and let my only motive be to do it for Krishna's pleasure. I was just reading just a day or two ago, someone was remembering a doctor they knew that when he was in the scrub room, he would think, Lord, please work through my hands to heal this patient. You know, I forget another person what their job was, but they were just thinking, let me always remember that everyone I deal with is a part of the Lord and dear to the Lord.
Thank you, Mother.
Is that all right?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Not just all.
Wasn't too heavy?
Wonderful. No, very good. Thank you.
Yes?
Thank you, Mataji, for that very nice program. I have we were just talking about service to Krishna. I just enjoy serving prasad.
Oh, lovely.
And it's not to please Krishna, it's just I enjoy it.
Okay. That's a good start. Do you think it makes Krishna happy?
I don't know that.
You don't know. Okay. Well, does Lord Chaitanya like to serve prasadam? Yeah, he does. Did Prabhupada like to serve prasadam? Did Prabhupada tell us to serve prasadam? So probably it makes Krishna happy. I think we got a really good chance. Yeah. So all you have to do is just meditate on that. Just meditate that Krishna's watching. Is he watching? Is Krishna watching when you serve prasadam? Do you believe at least theoretically that he's watching? He's in your heart, right? And he can see, right, in here? And he's in the hearts of all the people you're serving. So he's probably watching. Can you serve prasadam with that idea that you're trying to make him smile in the hearts of all the people to whom you're serving prasadam? But can you try to do that? Like, okay, I'm going to serve you, and just, it would be so much fun. You could just like picture there's this like little Krishna in their heart, and you're trying to make him laugh every time you're putting prasadam on their plate. That would be so much fun. Like, are you laughing? Are you laughing? You don't have to tell anybody. You can just be thinking. You can think about Srila Prabhupada walking in the room and watching you serve, and he would be happy, wouldn't he? If you're serving nicely, anyway. If you're not keeping all the paneer in one corner of the container for yourself to eat after you finish serving everybody else. If you're not putting the sweet rice on top of the pakoras. And then you can think about how Prabhupada's smiling. He's coming in to inspect. Satyananda Maharaj was just talking about this in Govardhan, how Prabhupada came to inspect the press in Germany. That Satyananda Maharaj was doing translation work, and he had just eaten a really big breakfast, so he was taking a little nap under one of the tables when Prabhupada came in to inspect. He decided, because then he woke up when Prabhupada came in the room, and he was deciding, should he pretend to still be sleeping under the table, or should he actually get up and make it obvious that he had been sleeping on the table? So he got up, and Prabhupada just started laughing. But he was saying, Prabhupada's coming to inspect, so you can meditate on that. He's walking in the room. How happy he'd be that you're serving prasadam. We sing that in the Guru Vastika, right? He's happy. Can you do that? Can you add that a little bit? Is that something you can do? There was a, yeah. You could say yes or no. If you say no, we'll try something else. Can you add that? One of those? Whoever, maybe Mahaprabhu, maybe, I don't know who you relate to. So you could relate to when I'm serving people, Krishna and their heart is smiling. You could relate to Prabhupada's coming and inspecting. Maybe you can relate to Gaur Nitai come dancing in the room. Lord Nityananda really had this funny prasadam serving thing on the bank of the Ganga, Yeah, with the chipped rice festival. I mean, if you're really into Lord Nityananda, maybe you can meditate on Lord Nityananda comes dancing into the prasadam room and watching you serve prasadam. Can you pick one of those? Okay. Whichever one resonates with you. Okay, you work on that.
How we can understand is the sense gratification or we are pleasing Krishna? Because he's saying he's feeling happy. So, but he's not sure Krishna is feeling happy or not, because whatever activity we are doing, as you said, as per your interest you can do. So I'm feeling happy. That means I'm satisfying my senses doing that service? I don't know. I'm just asking this.
So, pleasing Krishna should make us also very happy. Prabhupada says if we're not joyful, we can't make any advancement. So, don't be so afraid of engaging in sense gratification that you don't find happiness in your service. And what kind of a God do you want to worship that doesn't want you to be happy in your service? I don't want to spend eternity with somebody like that. Do your work just for my happiness and be miserable while you're doing it. If you enjoy your work, that's bad. Gosh, sounds awful. Austerity, the whole, what's that quote? That if you do all austerity and you don't find Krishna, it's worthless, and once you found Krishna, what's the use of all austerity? No meat, fish, eggs, no intoxication, no gambling, illicit sex. That's enough austerity in Kali Yuga. It really is. Following Ekadasi, fasting on appearance days. Our main austerity is giving up our false ego and our arrogance. That's a big austerity. But we should do the kind of service that we love. It's not that, I'm going to do service for Krishna that I absolutely hate so that I will perform more austerity. But that's not the instructions of our acharyas. They say, do what you love. Do what's your nature. You have kids? Do you want them to be happy or unhappy? How funny. No offense, but I'm sure Krishna's a better parent than you or I. Right? And he says, I'm the father, I'm the mother. And if we, with our imperfections, we want our children, you want your children to do something that makes them happy, right? How old are your kids? 13. When your kid gets married, you want them to marry someone they're happy with? Yeah. I hope. Do you want them to have a job or career that they feel fulfilled? Yeah. Do you want them to live in a place where they feel happy? Yeah. You're not going to tell them, that's all sense gratification. Krishna wants us to be happy in our service. But we should be happy through Krishna. The sense gratification is when I'm trying to take Krishna's energy and enjoy it separately from him. So I use this example all the time. So, I'm sitting in this chair, okay? So whoever manages this place, do you want me to be comfortable? The managers, do you want me to be comfortable in this chair? If I said, this is a really uncomfortable chair, would you say, good, it'll be austere? We don't want you to have any sense gratification. Now, but if I take the chair with me, that's a problem. If I say, what a nice chair. So if I'm trying to enjoy Krishna's energy separate from Krishna, that's a problem. If I'm enjoying through Krishna, he's happy like that. Right? I'm staying at these wonderful devotee, did you sleep all right? Is the bed comfortable? Are we feeding you enough? Did you like what they want me to be happy, but they want me to be happy through them as a guest. As part of my relationship with them. You follow? We don't want our children to be happy as drug addicts, right? We want our children to be happy in a way that's actually healthy for them. So Krishna wants us to be happy through him and with him. That's our natural position. What he doesn't want us to do is to try to be happy in a stealing way. Oh, look at this world. Haha, it's mine. That's a problem. Okay? And giving up that an exploitive mentality, an arrogant mentality, that's austere. It's actually a great austerity because we don't realize we have that mentality. We think we're all wonderful people. So just seeing this tendency in our heart is austere, and then letting go of it is austere, quite frankly. Those are very difficult things to do, often takes more than one lifetime to do it. Although we could do it in a moment. So that's the main austerity. All right? And Srila Prabhupada, actually, I know this has become popular in ISKCON. Prabhupada wasn't into more austerities than 4 regulative principles. Getting up early, following Ekadasi, doing fast days on the big... I mean, he wasn't really into devotees have added all these things. That's fine, but Srila Prabhupada didn't do that. He just didn't. So the austerities he's given us it's enough. If you want to do some more because you enjoy them, fine. If you want to do a nirjala on Ekadasi and staying up all night and chanting 108 rounds because you enjoy that, because you relish it, because it connects you with Krishna, go for it. But it's enough already, okay? Really. Most people out in the world think that our 4 regulative principles are extreme austerities, just by the way. When you've been doing it for years and years and years and years, you don't even notice that you're doing it anymore. And it feels like it's nothing. But to most people in the world, it's austerity. Is that okay? All right. I know I really have to end at 7:30. Yes? Okay, sorry. So thank you very, very much. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada or previous acharyas in the Shastra. Anything bad in this presentation is mine. Any mistakes, please correct them or ignore them. We do have some books. Oh, we do have another Essence Seekers left. We have one. Okay, so we have Career Dharma, How to Spiritualize Your Work. It was an Amazon bestseller. And How to Find What Is Your Nature, How to Spiritualize Your Work, How to Have an Ideal Society. We have one copy of Essence Seekers, which is a novel, How to Get from Materialistic Life to Krishna Prema. It's written at an adult level, though teenagers do enjoy it. Great Mantra is a little book, How to Chant Without Offense. The Bhagavad Gita book is a simple study guide. And if you have kids, ages 5 to 18, it's a nice book to use with your kids. Or if you want a simplified study guide, it's got summaries of all the chapters, questions and answers for the chapters, easy to memorize verses. And then Krishna Meditations is a beautifully illustrated book by Nadia Mani, the famous Kirtaner. How to find Krishna in every breath, in every bite of food, in every ray of sunshine, and in everything that you do. Again, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Let's thank Mother Urmila by saying Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And
Hare Krishna devotees.